You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
And yes, we are actually live. It is another Saturday, and welcome on into another episode from the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. I'm Joe D. McPhee, and I'm glad that you're here. We're probably going to have a relatively short show here, but nevertheless, we got some things to talk about, new books to look at, and a few things to talk about here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get some of the business end of things out the way here, such as telling you that Stupid O'Clock is happening right now. If you want to go ahead and watch that, you could switch over to their channel over there at Holocon on Holocon online on YouTube, and watch Stupid O'Clock here. We have to update this thing because we're coming on at the same time here. There's no more Last Man Standing here. Then you get that rested until Monday for Nicholas Tucker, and never mind. Furthermore, then on Thursdays we have our comic book spectrum here. And if you missed it last time, we had some good old-fashioned conversation about, you know, the announcement of the new Black Panther and all the other nice little stuff here, which was okay. This okay, it was good, and is a good example of people agreeing to disagree on a lot of different things here. So it's fun to be a part of that show here. But nevertheless, that is neither here nor there. So we're going to give people a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds to come on in, because you know it's that time. Some of the people's most favorite time of the show here, because we always starts off with new comic book pickups for the week. We want to give them a couple more seconds here, and boom, time for new comic book pickups for the week here. We did get some books in, and it is worth some time here. As stated in on Comic Book Spectrum, I finally got a full set of Planet She-Hulk. I will be reading that here very shortly. So there's probably going to be a review on Planet She-Hulk coming soon to Comic Book Spectrum. So be looking for that on an upcoming Thursday here. But for those who want to see what we got here, that is getting the glare out. That's issue 1, issue number 2. There's the card looking one for number 3, issue 4 with her and Jack of Hearts on there, issue 5, and the last issue number 6, where you have her in the wasteland and then her back in New York City as the lawyer. And that is the full set of Planet She-Hulk that's got to get read here. And then I've got another copy of well, actually, this might be the only one that I have, but there it is. That's Colt number 1. This is the Colt special number 1. It also features Tara Fremont and Black Diamond from AC Comics here. And it also introduces the Specialists, which is pretty nice here. And then we got this one Daredevil issue, and with the Alex Ross Electro on it, which is pretty nice. And then we completed, or I should say, I'm still waiting for the actual issue of 133 to come in, but we have completed volume 1 of X Factor with a couple of books that we have here. There is the X Factor -1, which was kind of elusive for a bit here. And then I finally broke down and actually bought a copy of issue number 6 here. For those who don't know what issue number 6 is, this is the first appearance of Apocalypse. It is one of the more expensive issues in that run here, as far as key issues is concerned. This one would top the list, would be issue number 6 here. Then from volume 3, this is issue 249 here. And I think I'm only like 1 or 2 issues from confirming that I have completed X Factor Volume 3. I have no idea what X Factor Volume 2 looks like, so I wouldn't have any idea one way or the other. And then from, I believe this is from Volume 3 here, we got Ghost number 18. And then we got Magnificent Miss Marvel issue number 5 that came in. I'm trying to finish up this series as well, getting all the issues here. And then we got from the original Harris Comics run, Vengeance of Vampirella number 3. So we're getting closer to completing that here. And then I've been slowly but surely filling in the gaps here, dealing with the last volume of New Mutants. This is volume 4 of New Mutants here. So we got a copy of issue number 2, 11, 24, 26, 27, and 33. So we got all of those that came in here. And then we got what I consider extra copies or actual condition replacements for volume 1 Wonder Woman stuff. This is more Bronze Age Wonder Woman than the Silver Age type stuff. So we got 223. Oh, that should have been early. I don't know why they're out of order here, but there's another copy of 138. This is an actual upgrade as opposed to just having an extra. And there's Tom Sawyer here. No, I did not go to see Brand New Day as of yet. However, from those that did go and watch it, I have heard that some will feel like that is the best Spider-Man movie ever. But my judgment is out because I haven't watched it as of yet. I haven't gone out. I really don't go out to the theaters anymore to watch movies here. So knowing me, I probably will wait until it comes out to streaming before I watch it here. But we got to, upgrade to 138 here. I just showed you the 223. That's just an extra here. This is not really an upgrade per se, but it's just good to have better copies of 189. And then we got 225, which is a upgrade to the one that I have already here. So we got those that came in here. And then for those who know how I am here, not trying to complete this run, but it just seems like it's just slowly building itself up here, more so than anything else, which we got a Lois Lane number 38. And then we're going to follow that with issue 41. And it's like, for those who don't know about these older Lois Lanes, these are more like what if stories in the Superman lore type deal. We got another copy of 147. This one is in worse condition than the one that I already have here. Then we got a 53, and then 59. But we are getting closer and closer to having, well, actually, I got a decent run of this volume of Lois Lane here. And then we get some good old-fashioned classic Golden Age stuff here. I believe that this is Apache Kid number 10, which is pretty nice. These were actually given to me as gifts here. So we got a Golden Age Apache Kid. And then issue number 10 of Straight Arrow. Good old-fashioned Golden Age Westerns here. And then we got from DC Comics, Western Comics. I believe that this is issue number 17 from 1950. So we got a lot of couple of Golden Age books that came in today, and that's pretty much all of new comic book pickups for the week here. and with that being stated here, we're going to go into the, I'm bypassing the collection update because I haven't really focused in on the series that we got the graphics for as of yet. I haven't got any of the newer X-Men type stuff. We did get some Wonder Woman, but all this stuff is, extra copies of stuff that I already have. So I'm not moving the needle as far as saying that I have completed my volume 1 as of yet. And besides, it's been painstakingly hard to find those issues at a decent price. So that's just kind of like where things are at here. Not a lot of people have Film Force anymore, especially the newer issues here. And when I say newer issues, we're talking about anything above, I want to say anything above like 110, issue 110, because it's like over 200 something, 200 issues as of right now, like 205, 200, somewhere between 205 and 215 issues of Film Force. But most places don't have a lot of the newer stuff because those were short printed here. So, that's where the collection update pretty much is at here. However, production update wise, I'm actually one page away finishing up on the chapter that I showed you guys last week here. So I got to page 8. I just have to finish rendering the graphics and then write in the actual do the lettering and all the other stuff to it here. So we got that together here. We're moving the needle on primetime Saturday night here. We're working on, I think it's like page 12 or 13 of that 50-page issue here. 52-page issue, I should say. So we got that in the works. I need to get back to the drawing board for Amazonia number 8 because I know people are waiting for Amazonia number 8, and then I have to get on the drawing board for AWF number 5, which is overdue. And the reason AWF number 5 is overdue because that is the one book that has the last Greg Horn cover attached to it here. So if you're a really big fan of Greg Horn's artwork, issue number 5 for AWF is the last cover that he did for us here. And if you paid attention to his streams here, he has a couple copies of issue number 3. So you can either get them from us or you could get them from him. And usually if he needs more, he would just reach out and contact me. I just give it to him, because that's just the deal that we have here. But saying all that to say, there's a lot of work happening as of right now. And, I've been kind of like taking a little bit of a break. Well, I should say a little bit of a break, but a little bit more of time off and not just really just hitting the ground running, because there's been a lot of stuff in life that's happening here. Like I've been trying to tell people, I'm getting closer and closer to retirement here. I'm like 6 years away. Well, actually really like 5 years away, since this is 2026. So I'm technically 5 years away calendar wise, more or less 6, in general aspect, from retiring for, going from doing my regular 9-to-5 job to doing comic books full time. But trying to get those finances in order, dealing with different family stuff, dealing with life in general. Sometimes you just need to take a break. You just can't work. You have to take the break, have some time to refresh and gather yourself and everything. So that's the reason why tonight's episode might be a little bit short, because I've been spending time. I've been trying to catch up on a lot of stuff that's on television that I need to watch and wanted to watch or have discovered so far here. And as of late, what I've been watching, and I'm one of these people that's like, I'm a big game show fan, but I'm also dealing with pop culture as far as the movies and all the other stuff is concerned here. So I have caught up with X-Men 97. So I am up to date with where they at in X-Men 97. And so far, am I impressed with X-Men 97? Not as much. I still like the older 93 series more so than what they're doing in X-Men 97. Not to say that it's bad. X-Men 97 is not a bad TV show. They expanded a lot on the storytelling, but some of the things that I have seen in 97, I kind of put up like those question marks. It's like, where are they really going with this? I'm happy that the first season of X-Men 97 brought in Bastion. I like that aspect here. I like how they have Alex and Polaris in the series now more so, and the fact that they brought in X Factor as a as a factor. I am not happy that Val Cooper is still in this series, then again, but then again, Val Cooper does play a major role in a couple other things, X-Men related wise, X-Men story related wise as a whole here, which they might pull from. For those who might not know, it's like Val Cooper was one of the few people that played a big role in X-Men 187 and the short-lived book called Sentinel Squad 1. So she was a major part of those two things here. I kind of like how they gloss over Apocalypse's history and the fact that they're still trying to work with the whole Kang angle across the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe type deal. And it seemed like it kind of crossed over into the X-Men, this X-Men 97 cartoon as well, that Kang has something to do with it. But at least we got Rama Tut as opposed to any other the Kangs here. We got Rama Tut Kang in this one, playing a factor, trying to take over Apocalypse's time. Well, I shouldn't say timeline, but his hit in doing what he did. Apocalypse would have never became Apocalypse if Rama Tut would have took over during his rise to power. So it was kind of interesting in that aspect here. And then, seeing all the other stuff about the certain other things of the past, like they brought back the whole idea of Department H in a revisiting of what was in the original, it was called Wolverine Sex Lies and Videotapes. They renamed it Wolverine Sex Lies and DVDs. So they did a further episode about that, talking about the history and everything. So it was a weird way for them to bring in the Brood. So the Brood made an appearance, and I'm just like, yeah, this is not the same, but I get what they're doing here. And the other bad thing about how they're doing the storytelling now is that there's no one-to-one correlation to how they're telling a lot of these stories in X-Men 97 that matches up with the actual books here. Reason being is that the Brood, let's take the Brood, for example. The Brood was in comic book continuity in the 1980s, meaning that these younger kids who like the X-Men, who like X-Men 97, the likelihood of them going to a comic book store and getting these issues pretty cheaply is little to none. Some of those issues are going to be in the $10, $20, $25, $30, $40 range to get them, to read them. So they're probably going to have to find ways to be get the trade paperbacks of the collected volumes based upon storyline. So even then you're looking at $25 to $30 here. But then again, content wise, you have to look at the what they can afford as opposed to anything else. The same thing with the origins of Apocalypse. It's not being told in the exact same way, but it is fine and dandy and this, that, and the other. But there's no one-to-one relationship for TV watchers if they're interested in reading the history of it, wanting to go back to the comic books, because there's no one-to-one correlation that they could just point back to say this is where you want to go, this is what you want as far as reading it. Because modern day X-Men is not touching any of the stuff that's happening in X-Men 97. Do I like X-Men 97? Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun and everything to that magnitude. I dig it here. I do dig that. So that was pretty good here. As far as some of the other stuff that I've been watching, I came across two shows that on Netflix that I found interesting here, which is dealing with more like game show / reality show type shows here. One is out of Korea called the Devil's Plan. And that one is more interesting because it's not like your stereotypical, I'm going to get on this reality show for, for a potential, $1 million payday. The way that they gather these people here is that all the games and stuff that they play is really higher intellectual type stuff here. And it's interesting because the way that it works is that they bring all these, more academic types in, and they leave it kind of like open. They kind of leave it open where it's like it's supposed to be cutthroat, but it's not really, because all the way that the games and stuff are lined up and played and formatted for them is that you have to have some level of cooperation while at the same time figure out a way to survive. It is more like I said, high academic type deals, and it's fun. It's fun to watch because of the simple fact that it is not as obvious that you know people have to be cutthroatish and all this other stuff to survive in the show, because you're going to have to cooperate in some form or some fashion. You can't just take a method of just saying I'm for myself. You're always going to have to be able to work with somebody else, which is kind of like a nice little theme here. And it's fun watching people realize how certain situations in the bigger game aspect of it changes them in the course of 1 week. And yes, the show lasts, the whole event lasts 7 days. So they bring them in. They bring them in, and so it's like the whole show is 7 days. But I think it's a total of 10 episodes here. But the way that they have it set up is they're there for 7 days, and in those 7 days, there's one winner. The winner does not necessarily mean that they get money, because they have to earn money while they're there, meaning that they have to build up a prize pot while they're there. But also at the same time, there's certain conditions to add prize money into the overall pot for the winner. But the major thing here is that the goal is survival. It's like at the very beginning of the game, it's like each individual is given like these tokens. A token. The token represents your ability to stay in the game. So like in the very beginning, they pretty much have games where everybody pretty much have to work together and everything to that magnitude, and a handful of people have to be like opposition. So it's kind of like, it follows a pattern. There's already been 2 seasons. It kind of follows a pattern and everything to that magnitude. And the tokens that they give to at the very beginning is very key, because by the time you get to like the 3rd day, if you are not successful in completing certain missions, or if you come in like, the last 3 places, you actually start to lose those tokens. And if you don't have the right amount of tokens to continue on, you are eliminated from the game here. So it was more, as it progressed, it becomes more and more involved as far as, are you really keeping the amount of tokens available? And then it becomes like, and you really get to see the bigger dynamics about how people who have more tokens get together and team up together to kind of look out for themselves, as opposed to those people who maybe only have 1 or 2 tokens left to their name by the time you get to like day 3, day 4. I mean, it's really interesting. It was really interesting. So if you ever on Netflix and you have an opportunity to watch The Devil's Plan, it might be a worthwhile watch if you like those type of shows here. Another one that was interesting like that was called $1 Million Secret. And yes, people, the whole thing is you can win $1 million on this show and this, that, and the other. But the way that it works is very, very weird. It's they have, I think it was like either 12 or 14 people coming to this one lodge area. And the whole idea of the game is that these 14 people come into the game with a particular chest that has an animal symbol on it. At the very beginning of the game, one person is given $1 million. The whole idea is to figure out who has the $1 million and eliminate them from the game. While the person who has the $1 million get like this one special agenda that they must complete. And if they complete it, it gives them all these different advantages that they can do to everybody else in the game if they do not get detected. So it's really, really interesting, and it's just kind of funny how people with accusations and everything, and how people are not picking up on certain clues and certain hints, body language, and all the other stuff to figure out who is actually the millionaire. And then the very last game is the one that always, it's the one that always kind of makes me kind of like look down on humanity here, because it's a very simple end game. The last three people that's in the game has like this one objective that they have to accomplish. The person who does it the fastest gets the biggest advantage of all in the last game, because the last game is pretty much the last three people are sitting there with their chest. One is usually the millionaire, and there's two empty boxes. So if you finish first in that final task, you get to swap boxes with anybody, but the last. The second place person gets to come in and swap any boxes first with anybody that's in the three that's remaining here. So by that time, you should have some idea of who is the millionaire and who is not. The third person who finished last can't change anything. They're just pretty much there to observe. And there is a possibility that they could still walk away with the $1 million, depending on how the other two people is switching things within the three chests here. And it's just weird, because it's like I have seen people just make the most boneheaded decisions here. Like the second season on that, the person who had the $1 million, knowing that they had to swap boxes first, decided not to switch their box with the person who knew that he was the millionaire. He decided, no, I'm going to leave everything as is, and expected the other person not to swap boxes with him. I was like, that's stupid. That's just poor logic. That is just so poor logic. But he decided to do whatever he did, and he ended up losing the $1 million to the guy who knew that he was the millionaire. All he had to do was just come in there, swap boxes with him. He swaps back. You have the $1 million. He didn't do it. He got overconfident, and he lost $1 million that way. But that's a show that I don't see a lot of people liking it. It is a more American show here. It is one of those things that is like, it's a eclectic taste. I mean, it's not as bad as how Netflix bastardized the Mole. The Mole used to be one of the shows on ABC that was really, really good, and now it's kind of like meh. And the reason why it's meh is because of the simple fact that a lot of the opportunities to earn money for the bank is kind of like meh. But at the same time, it's like they set all this stuff up for the Mole to kind of like blend in a little bit better in the group here. It wasn't like how on the original ABC shows, like they kind of forced people into positions where they could be looked at as the Mole, depending on the objective of the prize missions. So it's like each and every episode, it's like somebody can come off looking as the Mole, while in this version, it's kind of like obvious that it's like, yeah, some people might mess up and do this, that, or the other, but you could tell that they're not the Mole. You could tell, but it's just weird. It's kind of meh. But for those who've been watching the show, well, I should say watching the show, I say for those who have been watching my social media feeds, especially on Facebook, you guys know on yesterday I finally got a chance to watch Devil Wears Prada 2, the second movie in the franchise here. And if you really paid attention, that was the key thing that I mentioned in the second post here, where all said and done, the first movie was better than the second one. And it is. And it is. I won't go into in depth as far as the actual story is concerned here, because one of the things that I felt that went wrong with The Devil Wears Prada 2 is that the story didn't have too much legs to it didn't really have too much legs to stand on, to be quite honest here. No, it wasn't a rehash of the first movie. It really has its own theme, it has its own problems and all this other stuff here, as far as being a story, but the story was still kind of flimsy to me. We still have Meryl Streep acting, as Miranda, acting as Miranda. So that didn't change. Yep, this is definitely Devil Wears Prada, but it didn't feel like the Devil Wear Prada by the time you get midway through the movie. It stopped feeling that way. It kind of felt something different. Yeah, it felt more like it really wasn't a continuation of the first movie. It was more like 10 years after, almost a whole decade after. And people's attitudes changed. People from the older movie weren't in there, and some but the key people were, but what made the first movie what it was, the story did not match. The second one didn't match the story content of the first one. And what I mean by that is it really didn't make the main characters, feel as if you really saw a sequel. It was good to see Meryl Streep back as Miranda, but like I said, Miranda was still Miranda in a bigger way. But it wasn't it wasn't like Miranda as the impossible, overwhelming boss that you have to please here. It was more like Miranda, who is like, okay, I have settled into my spot here. I'm about to get this bigger promotion to move up in the world for the last time, type Miranda. And it's like she's more like get in where you fit in or get left behind, type Miranda. Anne Hathaway's character evolved greatly from the first movie to now. She had evolved greatly into from where she was in the very beginning to where she's at now. However, like I said, not getting to a lot of the story aspect of it, a lot of the older characters really didn't play as big as a factor as far as what needed to have happened here. But long story short, it was just the plot was, to me, felt flimsy. And I could get into that whole flimsiness. And I probably do that whole flimsiness as far as why it was flimsy, probably on Comic Book Spectrum, when we have more time to talk about the movie aspect of that type of stuff here. Lastly, I've been watching, for those who are anime nerds, went back and started watching Detective Conan again, and been watching One Piece. I finally finished the majority of they're making a documentary on EPD. See that I'm kind of looking forward to, but then again, it may take me a while before I get to really sitting down and watching documentary, because when I watch a documentary, I really pay attention. I really try to pay attention to everything, because the whole idea of a documentary is to truly be informed and really, be in tune to what the information is telling you here as a whole. But I'm looking forward to that here. The other documentary that I kind of laugh at is the fact that LeBron James wanted to make a kind of like a Last Dance type Netflix documentary about his career. I was just like, just say no. you know, I don't know. But that to me just does not seem interesting to me. But then again, there might be enough LeBron James fans for that type of documentary here. I wish we would get more stuff, more documentaries like Fahrenheit 9/11. That was one that I found very, very interesting, but they really didn't go in depth as far as how far they can go here without, the so-called filmographer Michael Moore getting into trouble. Sicko was okay, but if I really want to watch a medical documentary as far as the things that are not being told to us correctly, one of the ones that I probably have to buy again and probably have like my mother and sister sit down and watch is called Forks Over Knives. And if you ever watch that medical documentary, it would be great here. I haven't watched too many North Korean documentaries here, but then again, I have not been too big on history over there. I probably need to watch more of their types of documentaries here, but it would be interesting here. But the one that I mentioned, Forks Over Knives, that will be one of the ones that I always tell people to really, really watch, especially if you have like family members that have cancer diagnosis and everything, or diagnosis where they're forcing you to get surgery. I would always advise to watch that documentary, Forks Over Knives, because it really talks a lot about nutrition, changes in lifestyle and nutrition versus medical procedures such as surgeries and all this other stuff here, because sometimes it's not about we have the right medical procedures to help people. Sometimes a lifestyle and nutrition change can make and break a diagnosis from somebody being terminal to somebody living a lot longer life and a healthier life. But that documentary really touch on a lot of how there's a lot of diagnosis for people to get surgery, as opposed to making lifestyle changes and changes in diet that would be more conducive to getting them better. Yeah, to be fair, most doctors ask patients to make lifestyle changes before considering medical procedures. They have to. They have to. But then again, here's the rub within it. They say make lifestyle changes, but they don't offer any. And this is what I learned from Forks Over Knives. They do advocate for lifestyle changes, but they don't really give people suitable means to make those lifestyle changes. And that was kind of like one of the things that I learned in Forks Over Knives here, because there was a lot of people who have cancer diagnosis here, and they found out that it's like, yeah, there's certain foods, certain changes in actual diet that if you knew about them, you would make that change until you find out about the price tag on it, because those foods are more expensive. And it gets to that's the type of rope that I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, you can make changes in lifestyle, but they don't really move people, or when I say move people, I'm talking about transition them from one to the other. They're like, oh yeah, you could make this and go on this type of diet, and you don't transition them over to it. It's like, how do they just want people to just stop things cold turkey. And just like, everybody can't make that 180. And that's where the problem lies at here. And yeah, I agree with the statement. They do ask for those lifestyle changes. It's like, I have doctors tell me all the time, it's like, cut down on your soda intake, cut down on this, cut down on that, and you slowly make those changes. And when you do make those changes, a lot of times you don't see the benefits right away. And that's the kind of like the thing that, like I said, doctors are not really helping people to track the changes after they make those lifestyle changes. Because it's like, I hate using family members here, but I have a family member that we always tell them, it's like, hey, you go to the doctor, be honest with the doctor, this, that, and the other. So they're going through a lot of different things here, and one of the things that they had to go through was like compression, wearing like compression socks, compression knee gear, all this other stuff. And at first it's like, oh, it's not really working, this, that, and the other, blah 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 blah. And they really wasn't tracking it the way that they needed to be until just recently they started to see the final outcomes of this type of stuff. And now they're happier. But in the very beginning, the doctors really didn't say it's like you're making good progress or anything to that magnitude. They just like, no, just do it, just keep wearing them, just keep wearing them. It became cumbersome, it became awkward, it became all this other type of stuff until they started to see a change for the better. And that's what bothers me about at least Western medicine. Western medicine is like, oh, we want you to do this, that, the other, take this, take that, take that, to take that. They ready to get you on medication, then guide you through a lifestyle change. Instead of having people instead of doctors telling people, they would tell people, yeah, you got to be more active, but they won't say, hey, this is what I need for you to do. You're on this type of regimen. You want to do this type of exercise each and every day for this time of day, yada, yada, yada. And we'll see what's going on. And the few that do, they don't really fall back on it too toughly. And the ones that do, guess what ended up happening? Those people leave those doctors because of the simple fact that they're the ones that you need to be up under, because they're trying to keep you healthy. But yet at the same time, the patient does not see the benefit of it because they're not teaching them what to look for the benefit. And besides, most people are on the super fast cure track here, meaning that I'm going to take this wonder pill and I'm going to feel great. It never works out that way. And it's also a bad sign when people want to, take medication over making the lifestyle change. And granted, people are in pain. People have different pain thresholds and all this other stuff here. But the thing about it is, the old saying is like, motion is life. If it's not very easy for you to walk, at least getting up and walking is better than sitting down all day or lying in spot all day. You're not enjoying life at that point. You're in life, you have life, but you're not enjoying it. You're not getting the greater benefits of it. And sometimes, simple, just getting up, walking, even if it's just walking around the house, walking, 30 minutes to like 2 hours in the yard, something simple like that. Keep you in motion, keep you healthy. But that's pretty much where everything is at here. I'll try to think now. You kind of got me off track here because I was just talking about all the things that I've been trying to catch up on and keep up on and everything. Yeah, I did mention. That was the other thing. I caught up with 7 Deadly Sins. If you followed that Netflix series here, I did watch the last season of 7 Deadly Sins. To be quite honest here, it got to the point where a lot of the later seasons it's getting more or less convoluted, but I like where things are going went with Merlin and Arthur, because one of the things that this TV series did rather well was establish the old the whole Camelot mythology correctly with Arthur and Merlin. And it's kind of like one of those things. It's kind of like one of those things where it was just like, I hate the fact of how well, I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it because I know people haven't watched it from the very beginning and everything. But it was a death of one of the characters that was very, very sad, but it was very, very awesome because he understood what it was to take to be one of the seven deadly sins. And when his power was stripped from him, he couldn't just sit by and just not be a part of. So in his last ditch effort, because he was at the point of his career that if he stayed a member of the seven deadly sins, he was going to die. Knowing that he was going to die, he asked for one particular thing to happen, to have his power restored to him. He says, like, if I have to choose, if I have to die, I'm going to choose when I die. And he chose wisely. He did choose wisely, but it was one of those scenes. It was just one of those scenes where it's just like, yep, it just fits. But because of that character's death, Merlin made a very, very, very informed decision that she's been keeping secret from everybody else. And that last season was just like, this is awesome. This is kind of awesome. I kind of figured that Merlin was finally going to be themselves and not what people believed them to be. Believe her to be. Yeah, they made Merlin a woman in this, but it kind of fits here because they talked about Merlin's legend, and that's where everything lies up and everything here. But it's kind of cool in that aspect here. But that's what's been going on as of late here. I'm not going to talk your ear off anymore. We almost made it to a whole hour here, so I'm going to give everybody back their Saturday here. I hope that everybody has enjoyed what was talked about and everything. I'm going to eventually get back to more comic book topics here, but like I said before, I don't want to talk about a lot of the stuff that other people are just dragging through the mud here. So, you already know how I feel about Blind Bash. You already know how I kind of feel about grading and all the other stuff here. I love talking about new comic books pickups for the week here. I really don't want to go back into the slab books that I have and stuff to that magnitude. I don't really want to rehash that type of stuff. And I really don't like doing top 10 polls. Here are the top 10 books that I believe are awesome. It's like, that to me is like, meh. I rather talk about, what makes a story a good story, or if I read as I read Planet She-Hulk, I probably would have more fun, sitting down and breaking down the story about what went bad, what went bad, what went good. Did the story really meet where people could pick it up and read it very, very well, and accept what's going on in it? I'd rather talk about that, the nuances, the creation process, than talking more along the lines of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And then you guys have a voice too, meaning that you could come on here and say, hey, I really enjoyed this here. You saw what Tom's Lawyers is doing here, putting it out there. We have conversations about it. We will talk about it. And it's like, you never know. It's like, we talked about documentaries. We'll talk about anything and everything. Like I said before, From Dust is pretty much your show. I just make myself available to kind of give you the insights from a creator / publisher's point of view here. So keep those questions coming. Join the chat. It doesn't stop. It doesn't cost much of nothing to say hello in the chat in one way or the other here. But until next week, live life, grow, and be well. And we are out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday here. And I'll catch you next Saturday for another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. Have a good evening. Bye.